I haven't seen him. I haven't spoken to him in years. He used to really like me a lot, but I think when I ran for politics, he sort of, that relationship busted up from what I read. I don't know. He didn't tell me that, but I'd read some little bit nasty statements in the paper all of a sudden. You know, it's different. You become a much different person when you run for politics and you do what's right. I could do other things, and I'm sure he'd like me, and I'm sure other people would like me, but it wouldn't be as good for our country. As we said, our country's doing really well because of what we're doing. So it's not a popularity contest. So, I don't know. I would certainly look at the facts. If I think somebody was mistreated, whether they like me or don't like me, it wouldn't have any impact on me.
Hold up, because what I'm about to tell you is not what fans were expecting. Just days ago, the internet was buzzing with one explosive rumor that Donald Trump was allegedly considering a presidential pardon for Diddy. Blogs ran with it. Fans celebrated early, and some people were already calling it a Hollywood miracle. But now, sources say that Trump is not approving Diddy's pardon, and that alone should have been the end of the story. But baby, this is where things get messy. Because while the pardon is reportedly off the table, something else very interesting just happened behind the scenes. Something that could change everything. According to multiple legal analysts and insiders close to the case, Diddy has allegedly been approved under the First Step Act. And if that's true, that could mean a significant sentence reduction and possibly Diddy walking free by the summer. Now let's slow this down because the details matter. First things first, let's address the elephant in the room. For weeks, fans speculated that Trump might step in and pardon Diddy, citing Trump's past history of granting pardons to high-profile figures, celebrities, and controversial names right before or after major election cycles. Some fans even claimed Diddy's connections, influence, and legal team were working overtime to make it happen. But insiders are now saying Trump reportedly wants no part of this case. Why? Because unlike other celebrity cases, this situation is politically radioactive. Allegedly, sources claim Trump does not want his name attached to anything involving ongoing investigations, public outrage, or accusations that could resurface later and cause backlash. So the pardon? Dead, done, not happening. And when that news dropped, fans thought Diddy was officially cooked. But that's when the conversation shifted, because legal experts started whispering about something far more realistic and far more dangerous: the First Step Act. Now, if you don't know what that is, let me break it down real quick. The First Step Act is a federal law designed to reduce prison sentences for eligible inmates, especially those with nonviolent offenses, good behavior, and qualifying circumstances. It allows for sentence reductions, earned time credits, early supervised release, home confinement, and according to reports, Diddy may qualify, allegedly. Sources close to the situation claim his legal team has been aggressively pushing for this route instead of the pardon, because unlike a pardon, this doesn't require Trump's signature. Let that sink in. So while the public was distracted arguing about whether Trump would save Diddy, the real move may have already been happening quietly behind closed doors. Fans speculate this is exactly why Diddy's team has stayed unusually quiet lately. No dramatic statements, no public pleas, no desperate interviews, just silence. And silence in cases like this usually means something is moving. Now here's where things get even more controversial. Legal commentators online are saying that if the First Step Act approval is confirmed, Diddy's sentence could be reduced drastically, potentially shaving years off his time. Some estimates suggest he could be eligible for cliff-based release as early as late spring or summer. Yes, this summer, which is wild because just months ago, people were saying he might never see freedom again. But fans are divided. On one side, you've got people saying, this is proof the system protects the powerful. On the other, supporters argue, this is how the law works. Everyone deserves due process. And then there's a third group, the loudest group, the ones saying, why does it feel like this was planned? Fans speculate that Diddy's team never actually expected a pardon. They believe the Trump rumor was a distraction, a smokescreen, while the real strategy unfolded quietly in court filings, compliance records, and eligibility reviews. And if that's true, that's not just smart, that's cold. Because while the public was screaming, dragging, and speculating, the paperwork was allegedly being approved. But don't get comfortable yet, because nothing is final. Approval under the First Step Act doesn't mean automatic release, it means eligibility. And eligibility opens the door for something much bigger, because the next phase involves assessments, credits, and compliance reviews. And that's where things can either fall apart or move shockingly fast. And according to insiders, that process is already underway. Which brings us to the question nobody wants to ask out loud. If Diddy really does come home by summer, what does that mean for the ongoing investigations, the civil cases, the public fallout? Because getting out of prison doesn't mean getting out of trouble. And in part 2, we're breaking down what happens next, why this could trigger even more legal chaos, and why some insiders believe this is only the beginning, not the end. Because if you think the backlash is bad now, just wait until people see him free. Now let's talk about the part nobody is prepared for, because if Diddy is released early under the First Step Act, this story does not quietly disappear. In fact, insiders warn it could explode all over again. Why? Because prison time and public accountability are two very different things. Sources say that while a sentence reduction might satisfy the legal system, it will not satisfy public opinion. And fans already feel like something doesn't add up, but think about it. No pardon, no big announcement, no dramatic courtroom moment, just a quiet shift from he's done to he might be home by summer. That kind of outcome makes people suspicious. Fans speculate that Diddy's influence, resources, and legal firepower gave him access to options most inmates don't even know exist. Again, allegedly. But here's where it gets complicated. Even if Diddy walks free, he could still face civil lawsuits, financial penalties, industry blacklisting, ongoing investigations, meaning freedom doesn't equal redemption. And insiders say that behind the scenes, Hollywood is already distancing itself. Executives don't want their names attached. Brands are allegedly freezing conversations, and former collaborators are suddenly unavailable for comment, which raises another question. If Diddy gets out early, what kind of life is waiting for him? Because sources claim this wouldn't be a victory lap. It would be a very controlled, very restricted release, supervised movement, limited public appearances, no flashy comeback tours. And that's assuming nothing else drops. Because according to legal insiders, more documents, testimony, and filings could still surface. Fans speculate that some people are waiting to see if he gets released before speaking up. And if that's true, an early release could actually open the floodgates. And let's not ignore the political angle. Trump refusing the pardon sends a very loud message, and it says, "I'm not touching this," which tells other politicians to keep their distance too. So even if Diddy avoids maximum prison time, he may be entering permanent exile from political and public allies. And here's the most unsettling part. Some analysts believe this outcome was the best case scenario for everyone involved. No messy pardon controversy, no public political backlash, just a quiet legal mechanism doing the work. And that's why fans are uneasy. Because when things happen this quietly, it usually means they were carefully planned. But nothing is confirmed yet. No official release date, no public statement, no victory speech, just whispers, timelines, and a countdown that may already be ticking. So the real question isn't, will Diddy be home by summer? The real question is, what happens the moment he is? Because the internet never forgets. The public doesn't move on quietly. And scandals don't end just because a sentence does. And if history tells us anything, this story is far from over. Because when the doors open, that's usually when the next chapter begins. Drop your comments below about what you think about all of this.